Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the late start. We'll try to improve on that. Uh, Tuesday, April 1st. You know what, Jack? I didn't prepare an April 1st joke.
Well, that can be our topic for today. Everything we say is a joke. We're just kidding.
Like you would think that this graphic that I have ready to go with Bob McClure is a joke.
Well, the context is going to help on that one, right?
Sure. I mean, so we're gonna try and create a structure, a pattern here. I think every week, because the ranchers grace us with complete absurdities constantly, we can start at least every week with one rancher quote to have a little bit of a humorous fun and start with. So,
And if I may, I was going to tell you I was going to do this, but of course, as you're going to say stuff to me that I don't know is coming, I'm going to do stuff to you that you didn't know was coming. So there's history being made right now on the Senate floor, and I have a lot of Democratic friends, of course, because I'm one of those liberals who are saying, "Yeah, big deal, too little, too late." But I say no. I say this is going to be the start of something big right now, and that is Senator Cory Booker is on the Senate floor, and I say he's going to hang in there for more than 24 hours, standing on his feet, without taking a pee or food break, and break Senator Strom Thurmond's 1952 record of 24 hours and 18 minutes for a filibuster. But in this case, Senator Booker is basically, it's what the hell are they doing to our government? They're gutting it, and Elon, or as I call them, Rump and Felon, are lying. That's going on right now, and it's easy to be cynical about it, but I think the guy is sincere, and I think he's going to inspire people to actually do more than nothing.
yeah,
You know about that going on?
exactly.
Do you know about that going on?
From you.
Okay. No, I mean, a lot of, I saw it last night at whatever, 11, 12 o'clock, getting tired. And I'm like, why is he starting at night? And now I understand why. He has the energy to stay up alone with just one other senator, is it Chris Murphy of Connecticut, I think it is, who is there to support him. And as he gets tired, now going on over 16 hours now, for the next 8 hours, people will be entering the chamber and saying, shut the fuck up, and shut the hell up, and all that stuff. And it's going to be interesting. It will make the newspapers, and people are saying, what's the point? It's futile. But so is it futile to try to bring water to some elk when there's hundreds of dying of thirst. So is it futile to hug trees. So it starts out performative and silly, and it's so easy to put it down, because what the hell is anybody doing about anything these days? And it's all going to hell.
You know how easily you could derail the entire day, because there's a great topic inside of there. It makes me very sad that the human race, the most intelligent species, we praise ourselves all the time, are very, very quick to say, oh, don't bother, don't try. What's the point? When in fact, our species should be all about that. It's like it's the right thing to do. Even if it's futile, we should be doing it.
Well, thank you, Skyler. I wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't sure how you were going to react to that, because you got a good heart and you love nature more than humanity, probably, as I do. I know that much about you, but one can be so disheartened and so beaten down and so angry at the failings of everything. It's easy to just make it broad and then just say, what's the point?
Let's be clear. There's no hope.
Well, how about this? I'm going to put a layer of complexity to that. Yes. And then paradoxically, I also still have hope in moments. It's both. Otherwise, I wouldn't get up in the morning. What's the point?
As Karen pointed out, Cory Booker is vegan. So maybe this will help him with that, because we know a little bit more about fasting, or at least the idea of what the human body can endure, rather than being gluttonous monsters. And let's say good morning to everybody. Sadly, Paula left a chat before we even arrived, and she can't make it, but we appreciate that you'll watch later. Civil Robot says, good topic. Sledge says, probably not liking your Trump bashing.
Well, thank you, Sledge, for coming, man. I like you personally, and we can disagree, I hope, but we'll see.
Sledge says he's going vegan for a week. And again, good for you for trying.
Wow, Sledge, I immediately want to know, seriously, why? I want to hear why. Why are you trying to go vegan? What's that about for you, my friend? If you haven't been, what's given you an itch to try that?
He ran out of rabbits.
oh, there's the compassionate emotional support, Skyler. There you go.
I'm going to be a dick on a special level today because it's yet another night of not getting any sleep, listening to moronic humans create noise pollution around the clock. That's what we bring to the planet.
What was the noise pollution in your neighborhood?
Oh, take your pick. Mostly people who drive mufflers on wheels because that's how they found a purpose on the planet, is to make noise with vehicles, and the rest of it is leaf blowers and a street sweeper that goes by at 3 a.m. and continues for 5 hours because the leaf blowers that never turn off here aren't good enough. But it makes all these civilized robots feel very civilized.
Actually, I got to admit, Skyler, that was me. I was driving circles in a truck around your house. Just yeah, sorry.
So we could do tooth structure things. We could do the quote of the week and do a little recap on politics. I was, in fact, listening to a little bit of politics this morning while I tried to fit in a jog. It's a comedian that I got turned on to who uses his comedy to try and get people to wake up to what's happening to the country. And he had a war veteran on today. It wasn't very funny. They were just sitting down talking about the horror of what's being done to Ukrainians and the effort being made by this administration to end democracy there. But
who's the comedian? What's his name? If you can, no rush, but if you can find it. Yeah, when I'm doing one of my filibusters, you can find it.
Yeah, the taking prisoner of the Ukrainians and then raping them to where they're demoralized, and then forcing them to go and shoot their own people lest they be shot in the back by the Russians. And this is who we're supporting, or at least who this administration is supporting. That's nice. That's great. That sounds like the blood diamond horror that you hear in Africa, but no, it's Ukraine, and that's their punishment for agreeing to give up their nuclear power in exchange for protection from us, which we, of course, stabbed them in the back on. Okay, can we get to something else? Because I'm going to kill myself. This is a real quote, and unfortunately, I can't move our faces here. If I expand that, you can see all of it. Bob McClure, one of the stewards of the land, and this is from the old article, but there's so many stupid quotes coming from this guy, who would be the ultimate scum if it weren't for the existence of the Mendozas and the Spoletas and Lunny. So it's quite the competition of scumbags out there. But he literally, someone who gets credit for being called a steward of the land, complaining that all he hears now is birds. It's truly tragic when nature succeeds, isn't it, Jack?
Just for context, Bob McClure, 62 at the actually, he's about my age. I'm coming 65. But anyway, quote, "For the first time in my life," this is upon losing a lot of all his cows finally and moving to his second home in Petaluma. The poor rancher has to go to his second home, a farmhouse in Petaluma. He says, "For the first time in my life, all I have is a black Labrador," says Bob McClure, 62, recently sold his 500 Holsteins to a Texas dairy operation in advance of the settlement, and now commutes from Petaluma to maintain the old family home. Quote, "I miss the cows. Now all you hear is birds." Quote.
So in addition to how absurd that quote is, these are also lies. He was always in Petaluma and only went out to Point Reyes for photo opportunities.
Yeah.
Or to check on his slaves, modern day slaves, which they now pretend these people care about.
Yes, correct. And of course, heavily subsidized. So it's basically a profit engine without even having to abuse cattle. They just sublet their 8,000 square feet or 6,000 square feet of housing, which they pay $2,000 a month for, and then they can rent it out to their workers, their, as you call them, not inappropriately slaves, who actually do the labor on the farm while they count the money in the farmhouse. And they turn a profit on that difference between what they can charge in rent for their slave labor versus what the incredibly cheap, heavily subsidized 6 cents, 7 cents on the dollar lease deals they get from the government, while people who don't know this is going on say, oh no, you're hurting the poor rancher families who work so hard and steward the land with manure.
Yep. As another scumbag, Strauss, got, just free publicity, spewing his lies. Their Point Reyes is losing its best stewards, and here's one of the best stewards showing their stewardship, complaining that you're going to hear birds. And Marty Knudsen says maybe cowbirds only. And I appreciate the humor, but it's a possible opportunity to be derailed again, because if you go by Kehoe and McClure, you will see an abnormal population of starlings and ravens who are there because of the cattle, because of the cow poop, because of the cattle feed, and those birds actually hurt the birds that should be there. And it's not that I don't like starlings and don't like ravens.
Thank you.
But these stewards of the land create an unnatural, an imbalance that is unnatural, which ends up hurting other native animals.
By taking large numbers of domesticated, overbred, overfattened, as you call them, commodity crops, which is to say these artificially bred European cows, take huge numbers of them, thousands, and jam them together into small spaces, which creates too much manure, destroys the land, desiccates the soil, pollutes the water with manure, creates a huge amount of methane emissions. I mean, it's just an environmental catastrophe, or catastrophe, if you will. And that's that. And those are the stewards of the land. Your turn.
We are actually going to get to the topic of the day, folks. But
what is the topic of the day, Skyler?
The culture of killing.
Culture of killing. Well, who would do that culture?
The entire human race, and I think that's my point.
As I like to call them, my little quip was homicidal sapiens.
I just wanted people not to tune out, remind them that we are going to do it. But I'm going to put up a graphic that you sent, and I'm guessing you're making fun of Point Blue.
That is correct.
Who, by the way, has commissioned by the Park Service, done studies out there, which the Park Service was fast to completely ignore. Absolutely and completely ignore.
Yeah, what's sad is they started out. I don't know the full history of Point Blue, but they used to be a bird observatory or bird conservatory, and now they've gotten into the restoration field. I know them for their. I do know in some detail their efforts on the Farallon Islands. And actually, I was with a group yesterday, environmental group. We were talking about the Farallons for years, saying, "Well, what's going on with that right now?" And it looks like the funding is in limbo, possibly suspended. And they're out on the street now, Point Blue, basically trying to glad hand and try to find, private money to continue their important work of dropping literally thousands of pounds of Brodificum laced rodenticide bait all over in the islands. I'm
very aware. No, I'm very aware.
You know that. In fact, I also want to, God, I'm sorry, this is me. This is my ADD, but I do want to mention you, my friend, have made a documentary film called. Oh, we're gonna get to okay. You know to bring that up today. I just want to talk about the shark.
You're talking about the
Easter egg. You and your film. Yes, yeah, I know the name of it, but
I appreciate that. We're going to get there.
Great.
I am going to talk about myself.
Well, if you don't, I will. But it's a teaser. Hang in there, folks, because we're going to be all over the place with a bunch of interesting topics. Because we like to keep it. I like to keep it moving here. Skyler's a little more focused and disciplined.
But speaking of the Farallon Islands and my shark film, I know about what they were going to do to the Farallons because of my background in sharks, not because of my love of birds, which I have indeed come to appreciate much more. Rightfully so. Birds are just amazing, magnificent. My God, talk about creatures that we take for granted. They're always out there singing, no matter what bullshit we do to them. If I can hear them over the leaf blowers and the mufflers on wheels, that is.
It is good to be specific and talk about species and individual species, but name a species of animal, of wild animal, Skyler, non-human, that isn't magnificent.
Great point. And it's you're going to derail us again because this is about observation. I'm putting all my trail cam footage up in the members section because I don't know what else to do with it. But you stop and you observe. You have to stop and observe. And animals that we just dismiss, like let's say a wild turkey. Mind-boggling. It is a mind-bogglingly incredible animal, and that's got to be at the bottom of the list for a lot of people, right? I mean, how about a possum? You know, its face isn't the type that's going to be on the poster for a conservation ad, but my God, what that creature does and how it's designed, what it's capable of, as well as the wild turkey. I mean, I could go on and on and on. It's about the most intelligent species actually stopping and looking at what you're ridiculing, because really, what do? We just list everything as a pest because they manage to still exist somehow when we move in and destroy their habitat. Fucking pests.
And wild turkeys there are a lot of them. They have recovered in the United States, as I understand it, not just in the South now, but here we see a lot of them in California and across other areas. There are a few species like raccoons and coyotes that, for the most part, humans haven't targeted for death, the topic of today. So there are more and more of them. I went for a run yesterday up in the hills in Terra Linda, northern San Rafael, and I passed a couple wild turkeys. And of course, as you remind me, it's one of the few times I slow down and shut my big mouth and just fall quiet and start walking slowly. Like, how close can I get to a wild turkey? And it's a big, crazy animal. Isn't it Ben Franklin wanted to make it the national bird before the American eagle was selected? The turkey. And which, oh, there's a lot of them, so whatever, it's a turkey. We just take them for granted. We don't see them and their beauty and their, I don't know about majesty, but it's just a fascinating, intelligent bird.
Well, because they're awfully close to the farm animal category. You know, just billions. I mean, they're killed by the billions for fat, unhealthy human beings to gorge on. And therefore you see one out in the wild and like, I'm guessing most people say, well, why the fuck aren't you in the window dead waiting for me to eat you, rather than walking around being a beautiful wild animal? You mentioned raccoons, and I didn't mention raccoons because they are more obvious in terms of the animals that you would be blown away by. I don't know if I'm more blown away by anything than raccoons. And if there's one animal I could watch mesmerized all day with the trail cam footage, it's the raccoon. The way that they use their hands, and they never look at what they don't look at the ground. They're always looking around, and their hands are telling them everything they need to know.
Do you know that I was with my ex Amy, a baby raccoon rehabber for, it was either 3 or 4 years, I forget now. Meaning we were delivered because the mother raccoon was either killed by pest control or got hit by a car. Then it was actually Yggdrasil out of Oakland, which is the equivalent of Wild Care here in Marin County, would deliver us. It was we were licensed rehabbers, but 1, 2, 3, 4, or our first time, 5 baby raccoons the size of chipmunks, baby raccoons, and we had them in a cat carrier, and we nursed them and raised them and fed them until they were 6 months old, young adults, and then set them free in the wild again. So I got to know those animals really intimately. They're incredible.
I'm so glad to hear the last part, because I volunteered at an animal rehab center where they had this raccoon in a cage that was young, and they had decided that they couldn't re-release it. And I'm like, what effort have you put into re-releasing it? I mean, when you watch what a raccoon's capable of, you can't fucking put that thing in a cage. Just put it down. Have some balls and be more merciful, because a wild animal doesn't want to be in a cage. This is a species that binge watches shit all day long and has food ordered to them, making decisions about how other animals should live. Okay, we're going to get to...
Want to read the three comments from Karen, Chris, and good morning, Chris.
Let's say hi to Leah. Thanks for joining, Leah. And go ahead and read Karen's comment.
So Karen, a turkey is a powerful animal. They can kill a human. They are beautiful as well. I didn't know they were that powerful. Fascinating that they're both, beautiful and, of course, gentle in my experience. They never come to approach me, so I didn't know that. Good morning, Chris. Welcome, fellow elktivist, and helped out. By the way, Chris, I never thank you publicly for you and Nick helping set up the Freedom Party, so thank you very much. And Sledge says, I have wild turkeys all over my property. I incubated 50 turkey eggs 4 years ago. There's this story. You're an interesting guy, Sledge. And hi, Leah.
He has to resist during his vegan stage, not eating the animals that he raised.
Sledge. Oh, that's right. Here, one thing, Sledge. Here, my friend. Here's inspiration for you. It's a 90-minute documentary. Watch 10 minutes of it. if you can watch 90, go for it, called Dominion. It's free on YouTube, and that will inspire you. It'll give you a different perspective on why Skyler and I are sitting here. Dominion. And we humans have dominion over the Earth's animals.
I'll admit I haven't watched it.
Well, you don't need to.
No, I don't. I've watched enough. When I was researching stuff, trying to make videos that no one was ever going to watch, the shit that you can find on YouTube will destroy your soul. What we do to other creatures so that we can have food delivered to us. I mean, it's astonishing. It's worse than any horror movie that Hollywood's ever put out.
I'm writing another. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Here we go on our vegan therapy rants again. Let's get to the topic. It's my fault. I know it's my fault.
But it's also the largest friggin' thing everybody can do today. They can make a difference today. Like Sledge is making an effort. And I'm really, when you get further into your experiment with this Sledge, maybe we'll have you on and just do a show about as the joke goes, my vegan journey, what it's been like for you to try that and why. And Karen says, watch the movie My Life as a Turkey. It's fantastic. Never heard of it.
So I'll say something about the wild turkeys. I think because I think they're protected, at least to an extent over here. They're an animal that I talk about when I'm walking around looking at them as an example of what life could be like, because they aren't scared to death at the very first sign of a human being. And that to me is a happier world where you can walk around and actually get to enjoy other creatures because they're fun to look at, instead of them being like, oh shit, a human, I'd better hide, which is really the case with pretty much everything else out there. The wild turkey is the only one that shows itself during the daylight. In my experience.
Look, you're a videographer, photographer. I'm a photographer, not a wildlife photographer per se, but I've obviously spent my share of time with a camera trying to get photographs. I'm not patient enough to be a good wildlife photographer with a 600 millimeter lens, but there are a lot of analogies between hunters and photographers of animals.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning, it's a chance to bring you close to nature, which all of us crave in some way. It's not dominion over the animal by killing it or eating it for food, but it's being quiet, knowing the viewer. For a hunter, it's prey. For us, it's an object of admiration and awe and wonder and joy, and getting it in your sights with a camera, waiting for that decisive moment, but not to profoundly, not to kill it, but to take a picture to share your love or appreciation for that animal. So it's fascinating, actually, that it's so similar and yet at the core wildly different.
It's so similar. I mean, years ago when I would haul around a big lens with me and find an animal that has far superior eyesight than myself, but can't see me because I'm using this technology,
and smell better.
And I'm thinking, all I have to do is go like this, and the animal's life ends. I mean, that's just wrong on so many levels. It's just bullshit, and it's cowardly and unfair.
Yeah, Native Americans for thousands of years hunted with high-powered rifles and 30-power telescopic sights, right?
Well, you're steering me to today's topic.
Perfect. Thank you. You're welcome.
And oh God, I guess I'll clear the air. The planet is full of disappointing people. So I spend more time shitting on people that I had a little bit of an expectation from, because with everyone pretty much being garbage, there's a small group that you hope to look to inspiration for. And in my opinion, nowadays, I'm seeing more and more indigenous cultures just using indigenous culture as an excuse to act like the rest of us. It's not a form of inspiration. And I'm jumping the gun. I got no sleep, so I'm not like delivering this the way that I wanted to. But I'm receiving an award at the film festival.
Which film festival, when and where?
The International Ocean Film Festival in San Francisco in 2 weeks.
What's the date on that? Do you know? And if I'll help you with that, by the way, because I think your film is showing at 1:00 in the afternoon on Saturday, April 12th.
Correct.
At is it Fort Mason?
Correct. The
Which
Cowl
is the
Theater in Fort Mason.
Cowl Theater with a C?
Yeah.
Okay, because when you said that, I thought you said Powell, like Powell Street. No, it's the Cowell Theater. I don't even know it by that name, but Cowell Theater. Thank
That's
you.
all right. They'll have plenty of people. I'm going to have my own screening at some point.
Do you want people to go? Are you telling people to go that day and support you, or not necessarily?
Either way.
Okay, because I was planning on going. I think it would be great to see you in that setting too.
Well,
your own screening is good, but it's a ton of work versus you have a screening coming, my friend. Let's take advantage of
well,
it.
I'm gonna plan my own screening too.
Is this open to the public? Can people go in so they can meet you? They can meet you, the man, the legend, on Saturday, April 12th at 1:00 at the Cowell Theater in Fort Mason in San Francisco.
So
you were so uncomfortable with promotion. You're so funny, Skyler.
Just let me get my monologue out.
Sure. I won't interrupt again. Not really.
Yeah, I know you are. Here's the thing. At the same festival that I'm gonna receive this award for, Jesus Christ, really, Sledge?
I don't let him distract you. He's just messing with us now. It serves me right, Sledge. I get it, but no, you don't.
Hope so.
Bad boy. I think there's no good reason to cut down trees. That's all just an excuse for humans to build more stuff.
The exact same reason that the ranchers do. You want
space
for your commodity animals, not for nature. And these are the same people that turn around and pretend to be friends of nature.
There's two reasons we're in a climate crisis. One is cutting down trees. The other is eating cows. And of course, a lot of cutting down trees is to eat more cows and cow products like dairy.
Okay. So if you and Leah and anyone else comes, Jude, I know gave a shout out. Appreciate that. As usual in our group, no one responds because they aren't vegan. And here's the thing. At the same festival, my film talks about really horrific things being done to marine animals using an excuse, using a human excuse. It's a bullshit excuse, but it's a justification that if you market it and sell it, works. At the same film festival, another film, and when I saw that my name was announced, I was like, please. I went and looked at the other films that were going to get awards, and I was like, please don't be this one that I saw was going to be at the festival. Sure enough, it's called One with the Whale, and it glorifies the killing of whales for cultural reasons.
Oh God. Wow.
And here's the real core of today's topic. Fuck human culture and fuck indigenous culture as being better than other shitty human culture, because it's no longer indigenous culture. It's just humans desperately needing some form of purpose on this planet that continues to deplete the planet, and be a source of inspiration that says, you know what, the time for killing is way gone. And Jack, I told you not to interrupt my monologue. I know it's really fucking hard for you.
It is. I want to support you in that. You're a fucking brave man. Go for it.
Last week, because I'll set this up, let anyone who's still watching mull this over in their heads, and then we'll circle back to it. Last week, you said need to kill, and you were talking about Native Americans on the plains or something like that, and they had to do it. Yes, you did. We have the recording. And I thought, I'm going to bring that up next week, because you being a vegan know that we don't need to, except for the fact that on a caloric level, yes, we do have to consume energy. That's undeniable. And you even see non-meat eaters doing this. For example, I've seen deer eat flesh because we've taken away everything else that they would naturally eat. I've seen a cow eat her own placenta, which is flesh, because somewhere deep inside of her, she still has some form of instinct that says you got to hide the attraction to the predators to your baby. And she's also getting back some nutrients that were lost with the pregnancy process, which brings me back to the point. Nutrients, you got to consume calories. This is true. Maybe, just maybe, the human race doesn't have to exist everywhere to where you use an excuse that because there aren't any, isn't anything that we herbivores, at best omnivores, could naturally consume, that you turn to, killing other animals. Now, that's not to demonize Native American culture, because obviously them hunting buffaloes, at least at one point in time, it turned ugly when they started riding horses and using guns, thanks to Europeans. But again, if you live in the desert wasteland of the Midwest, and I can call it that because I grew up there, if you live in the Arctic, Antarctic, where the only way that you can survive is by wearing the hides of other animals, and there's no food to be found unless you start using boats and harpoons to kill other things, maybe you shouldn't exist there. Maybe the human race doesn't need to be glorified because they found a way to survive by killing other things in places that they don't need to survive. Because for God's sake, we certainly don't need more of our population, the most unchecked population that exists. And George Werthener told me that the Native Americans in Washington, who's the worst killer of native animals in the United States, Jack? It's an organization under the Department of the Interior.
Wildlife Services.
Bingo. As horrific as they are, Native Americans in Washington kill more wolves than Wildlife Services do because of culture.
Wow.
They kill more buffalo in Yellowstone with high-powered rifles, driving $100,000 trucks, killing mothers, leaving babies wandering the field. Stupid, disgusting shit. And now Native Americans are as obese and unhealthy as the rest of us.
Because of culture.
I'm so fucking sick of our race, whether you've been doing it for thousands of years or a couple hundred years. Because if you think of the ugliness of ranching, European ranchers coming in and displacing the coastal Miwok, and then making the world focus on their culture and talk about their historic ranches. Right now, there's a big pity party about historic ranchers are being ousted because of these evil environmentalists. That culture is a culture of killing, and it hasn't been around for very long. And yet, if you market it correctly, it's the only culture that's ever been here. But my point is, any culture can get marketed as, oh, well, this one's important, and this one justifies humans doing this to the planet. There's no room for any of it anymore, whether you're white, black, Native American, whether you live in subarctic temperatures, hot temperatures, or perfect coastal temperatures like humans were originally attracted to, such as the Bay Area of California. We're fucking everywhere now. And everywhere we go, we kill everything. Stop.
We're like another organism. We're like another organism on the planet. It starts with a C.
Or a V. Virus.
Cancer. Right. So I applaud you. We should do a separate show and bring on George Werthener, and maybe, if he's willing to, Ken Brower, a few other notables who would talk about Native American culture. Ken called it wisely the third rail of environmental politics, the thing you're not supposed to talk about. And I'm so glad you brought it up, because, it's sort of, that was then hundreds of years ago. This is now. It's a very different planet. We've decimated it, and there's too many humans. I don't care what your culture was. I don't care what my culture was. Stop killing things and destroying the land. And I was on a tour of Tamales Bay State Park Forest on Friday, which broke my heart. All these young people arguing for management with chainsaws, masticators, and poisons. And the worst of it is, the tragedy of it is, they're educated, academic, have degrees. They work in these kind of ancillary to industry institutions, consulting firms and cow parks and Cal Fire, and they mean well, but they're promoting and they believe in destruction of nature by tending of nature because, as you say, Native Americans. And of course, what they're doing has nothing to do with how Native Americans used to be on the land. I don't want to say tend the land, be on the land for hundreds of years or thousands of years, but hundreds of years ago. It's no longer that anymore. Stop it. As you say, stop killing animals. We can't do it anymore. We've already destroyed too much of the planet, ecosystems, and animals.
Oh, sorry, I've been disassembling the place, so I don't have to lift up my microphone. The category that they're winning an award for is coastal culture. So, culture. It's not only an excuse to kill; it's a reason to give an award for killing.
Sledge says he lives in what's called an oak desert. To tell me what county you're in, Sledge, so we know. But just like cows, only with oak trees, the Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service, will cut down anything that is not an oak, and then they spray Roundup on the native honeysuckle. So there you go. Chainsaws and poisons, whether it's Roundup or Garlon, or I don't even worry about the formulations, but it's herbicides because they'll keep changing the names and the formulations to get around it. And rose bushes, they cut down other trees so they don't take nutrients from the oaks. Right, because oaks are the good trees and the others are the bad trees. We get to play God and, of course, destroyer as well, to protect the good by killing the bad, which is always my invasion biology topic, which is another one that too many and good, well-intended environmentalists have been led down the destructive garden path to kill the bad plants and kill the bad trees. This is complete and utter non-science.
I mean, you could easily derail us again because that's what I see going on around us. That when there is like some sort of grant or something to do something good, it's like they can't get their heads past planting a tree, and everything in between the trees is just murdered. I'm like, that is not what habitat is. And how can the people in charge be this fucking disconnected from the concept of habitat?
So for the first time ever, I was standing in the forest in a group of 25 people. Oh, and by the way, Laura Sheraton was there also. Another, more knowledgeable than me, a riparian ecologist. And I got to talk to a Cal Parks representative back and forth, pissing off the other 20 people watching who are all industry shills, industry true believers. They're not shills. They believe this stuff. And they were growing impatient with this troublemaker, me, doing my little mini Skyler, not even with your courageousness to just keep at it, because it was futile, but it was just fascinating. We're standing in a certain spot that was chosen by the Cal Parks rep. And I said, so wait a sec. You're talking these generalities. Specifically, you stopped us at this point. Would you look behind you where we've stopped and point at the habitat there? This was a forest with some old pine trees, bishop pine trees. What are you going to do exactly? With what tools? Where? To what extent? Be specific. Because the plans they have, a 67-page report or 167-page report, is completely general and not specific. And long story short, lo and behold, did I get a specific answer? No. And that's because why? Because they are partnering with Grayton Rancheria, Federated Indians of Grayton Rancheria, for TEK, the bullshit fancy term for traditional ecological knowledge, which Grayton doesn't have anyway. It's all bullshit, of course. But she said, well, we don't know what we're going to bring them in to consult, and then they'll tell us what to do. So it was basically a way to say, no, I can't tell you because we don't know. But approve the project for millions of dollars anyway.
I wish we could get a Native American on here to call me out because I'm ready for the smoke. You need to understand that I do think that the Caucasian is the worst thing that's ever happened to the planet. But when you're being shown as a source of inspiration and you're anything but, that really pisses me off. And I grew up with playing cowboys and Indians, and I always chose to be the Indian, and so did my cousin, because we wanted to pretend we were outdoors kids, and we wanted to pretend that we had anything to do with being more in touch with nature like we envisioned the Native Americans to be. But that is just not reality anymore. And white people are using the concept that these people knew everything and still do know everything to continue to commit the atrocities that their corporations want to happen. This isn't cultural. This is using culture to continue to destroy the planet. Don't be a willing participant, because that's fucking gross.
The way ranchers, white European descent ranchers, use Mexican laborers, whether legal or illegal immigrants, no matters not, brown people as shields, right? Societal shields to say, hey, Don't take away my job. Look at this worker that I'm exploiting. I mean, using.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens when Cal Parks and Cal Fire say, we're cutting down the forest, but hey, don't blame me. Native American consultant, another brown person, if you will, people of color, BIPOC is the fancy term for it now, in front of me, they're saying it's okay to do, using them as the excuse to do. And it's always, as our theme today, killing, killing, killing.
How can we possibly have any more room to be killing with all the killing that we've done? No matter what culture you have. And this is what culture looks like now, by the way.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Man, I guess they're heading back to their teepee.
So just anybody listening on radio or driving a car, there's a tractor carrying what looks like I don't know the species of whale on a
Bowhead.
A bowhead whale, a dead bowhead whale, which is being tractored off just the way the Inuit used to traditionally for thousands of years with a tractor. Wow. And, of course, because to give it some more complexity, because I assume the Inuit are, poor because they, were a subject of racist white culture. They look at that dead whale as, not just tradition, but also, lots and lots of food, meat for a little bit of money.
That's
right?
The same excuse being used by the ones doing the buffalo killing in Yellowstone. And I'm sorry, I no longer can buy that when, in fact, you are physically demonstrating that you're not hungry.
Oh, and also not you doing anything remotely like natives did.
They didn't roll up in a $100,000 truck with a packed lunch and a $2,000 rifle, fat as fuck, and then talk about being poor.
It reminds me, my mother, my late mother, born 1925, documentary photographer. And in the 70s, late 70s, she photographed as a documentary film project. She got a grant from a museum in Westchester County, New York, and she photographed Seminole Indians in Florida and Delaware Indians, God, in the in the West, central Midwest. I forget whether it's Indiana. In any case, Delaware tribe. And some of the pictures, like I didn't understand as a teenager. There was a cowboy, an Indian, acting like a cowboy, riding a horse with a cowboy hat and a belt buckle, roping a steer, a young cow steer. Mm-hmm. And, and another picture was this guy, a tribal chief wrestling an alligator, proudly standing over the alligator with its mouth open. It wasn't dead yet. Like, look how strong I am. And it was like, oh God, I mean, I remembered, I didn't know what quite to make of it, but now it was, the ultimate decimation of their culture, making them Westerners, taking on our traditions, but they're, again, they're victims themselves, I see, but victims and also simultaneously perpetrators doing what white man does to animals and treats them with that lack of respect and abuse and control. It was disturbing.
Let's make this more challenging, because we could talk about the disappointment that I feel or you feel about Native Americans all day long. But what about the other topic I introduced, that we literally don't need to consume it unless there isn't anything else to consume? And in that case, maybe you shouldn't be there, because you're certainly not fulfilling an ecological purpose. If there isn't anything there that you physically can consume without manipulating the situation, that means you didn't have a role in that habitat. Therefore, you don't need to be there.
Yeah. No argument from me, Skyler. No,
we don't get a lot of callers on here. I put the call-in link up. If anyone wants to talk about this, defend those that I attacked today, or talk about, yes, human beings do have the right to exist in every habitat on the planet, even though every single one of those habitats we have to wear another animal's skin and invent things in order to survive there. Yeah. All right, let's read some comments.
Leah, of course, correctly points out that but the Inuit kill whales, though, is another BS excuse for white people who don't live in extreme environments. Like they live in, California, New York, in the urban centers. White people there use that as an excuse to not be vegan. Hey, the Inuit over there, or the Native Americans there, do these things, and therefore I can not get off my fat keister off the couch, and I can eat steak out of the fridge.
Isn't it interesting how that can go both ways? Like the Native Americans will be like, how dare you judge us when, you know, you're killing on admittedly a much grander scale.
Yeah.
And then the people killing on a grander scale will use the indigenous tribes to be like, oh, well, wait a minute, you're okay with that and not with us. But I'll tell you an experience I had in Thailand, because they, in combination with the industrial fishing fleet, ended up wiping out their own fish supply, which, if you were going to say anything was cultural, it was taking their food from the ocean. Well, they killed all the reef there with dynamite fishing and cyanide fishing, as well as the fishing fleets surrounding the islands didn't help either. And now they're chopping down the forests and raising livestock, which were, of course, introduced by who? White people, the invaders.
Yeah.
And now that is considered culture. No, it's not. Your culture was wiped out, and now you've assimilated white culture, and it's being called culture, and you're continuing to destroy the planet in the name of culture. And that, I don't know if anything signifies how bullshit the term culture is than that, or the people that cower from, you know, you see these really weird dog torture cultures where they actually they don't just kill the dogs, but they torture them prior to eating them. And some people who are, I've had this experience, you know, like they see it and they're like, oh my God, no. And then you're like, oh, but that's their culture. Oh, oops, sorry. No, wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong is wrong, people.
Well, yeah, you're pulling back the aperture even wider. I don't care about subdivisions of human groups. It's all human problem.
I got, you know, from my shark days, I got people that have traveled the world photographing all sorts of amazing, wonderful wildlife, and they'll stretch from sharks into, you know, terrestrial animals and go into the Amazon. And I was interviewing a guy for my shark channel, and at the end of it, he throws up a photo of the South American cowboys. And he's like, and this has always been really important to me. And I just tried so hard not to say anything. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, it's not. Don't pretend like that has anything to do with you just because you're Hispanic. That is not what South Americans did. And it's the very picture of chopping down the forest that you were just taking photographs of incredible animals in. Let's define culture and do some inquiry into that. Oh, yeah. Geez. I got to tell you, Jack, the word culture is really overused right now. Like, I analyze sports also as an escape from this shit, and it's used in there. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
A lot of young people won't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm giving a demonstration of how Grandpa used to do things. My friend Steve from Switzerland is watching. He knows this book I have in my hand. By the way, it's a book. It's a book. It's a bound thing, paper, and it can't be changed by the.
How does that work?
Elon Musk bots. Yeah, how does it work?
Where's the microphone? How do you talk into it?
It's a dictionary, and here's the word culture, by the way, which comes from the Latin cultura, from the coler, C-O-L-E-R. No joke. Common root, cult. Cult. Common root. Cultivation of the soil, first definition. Second, production, development, or improvement. Oh, wow. Of a particular plant, animal, commodity, etc. That's interesting right there. Improvement, right? And then it goes on to growth of bacteria, other microorganisms, to culture a cell. 5, I'm jumping ahead. Development or improvement of physical qualities by special training or care. Oh, God, it doesn't even have how we're using it.
Which means we've turned it into what we wanted it to mean.
Yeah, I mean, this is an older dictionary, granted, but I mean, I went to school and I was taught the word culture. When you were saying it originally, it's like, oh, we had a class, I remember, in social studies called culture. But anyway, I'll look at cultural, which is the more common definition now. and it's of or pertaining to culture, specifically the training and refinement of the mind, interests, tastes, skills, arts obtained by breeding or cultivation.
So culture means manipulation of the natural.
Well, it is. Wow. I now I'm curious to go look up, not now live, but to look up a more modern definition and to see whether it's, the organization of human communities, which is my thought of where culture is going to go to for definitionally. Interesting.
Let me pose a question to the viewers. I'm trying to get some interaction here.
Yeah.
People, the call-in link is up if you want to. What should I do at the festival? Because I asked this question in the members section. Should I graciously accept the reward? I mean, the award, or should I make a point of saying I can't accept this based on the other film that you're acknowledging? I mean, one is an asshole, but I'm trying to do the right thing. The other one is I'm being gracious because I'm trying to do the right thing.
How about you do what the great Joaquin Phoenix did? You remember what he did at the Academy Awards for when he got an opportunity to speak as recipient of Best Actor?
Right, but he was being awarded as an actor in a film that had nothing to do with the topic. I'm going to receive an award for whale conservation at a festival that is also glorifying whale slaughter.
How about accept it? Thank you for this recognition. I appreciate it, but I just have to say, and then say what you have to say. Speak your truth, my friend. That's what you have the courage to do when many don't. You're
Well,
more
that's
courageous than
definitely that would definitely be guilty of getting your cake and eating it too.
Eating your cake and having it too. So, I mean, you don't. It's sort of like Marlon Brando. I refuse to accept the Academy Award, and he doesn't show up. Like, make a statement. Use the friggin' platform, man. Why can't you do that? Or donate the whatever. There's a way to. All I want, my only skin in the
there
game.
won't be anything worth donating.
I would encourage you, and other people will weigh in here. My encouragement would be to use the opportunity to have Skyler speak truth to the power in that room.
Well, if it's not too forced, I'm definitely gonna, because spoiler, they use fishing gear to kill marine life so that people can use the beach and feel safer about it. But they call them shark nets, but it's just fishing gear. And what people need, and I resisted. I mean, I had to cut like 3 hours out of the original cut. So you can imagine how hard it is to include everything you wanted to. But one aspect of it that I could talk about later is that, okay, so if you actually got sad watching these animals drowned for the sake of tourism, it's the exact same thing that's happening with the fishing industry, except you have to measure that suffering by the ton. And you don't need it. Sorry, buddy. You don't need it. So you want it. You want it. And you putting want above need causes a lot of suffering.
So these words you're speaking now, Skyler, would do well and have effect to be said in the room there when you get your reward. Speak your mind.
Yeah. I mean, I said, if it's not forced, I mean, I'm just not going to just walk up there and shit on the festival.
Well, I mean, it's funny, different opinions here. Karen is, she's tough. She's like, don't accept and tell everyone why. And Leah says, Skyler, yes, make a point at the award show. You can be gracious at the same time. So different opinions right there. And you're going to have to feel out what's right for you. But you can say, thanks for the award. I appreciate that. And what I tried to do was so-and-so, but I'm upset about this and this and this.
What? Doge just ended cattle in public lands?
No, that was no. Lulu, I saw that too for a moment. That's an April Fool's joke. It was posted by Western Watersheds Project. Dole's, to save money, they ended cattle ranching subsidies. That was an April Fool's joke. Oh, how I wish it were true. But of course, that ain't going to happen because they're not actually trying to save money. It's all about just moving money from government to poor people services up to the wealthy for a tax cut. It's where Elon's, just plundering the poor people's money through the government. It's all nonsense.
So we're continuing to get opinions that are split across the board. So you can see how easily people would make an argument for both directions.
Susan Kirk says yes. Good morning, Susan. Yes, accept and speak your truth. Yeah, I mean, it's, personality types. I'm more. I choose to try to be more diplomatic and deal with the quote unquote enemy. I'm being polite to the Cal Parks person who is a destroyer of forests, because I mean, it was funny. It was Peter Coyote's argument. He's a sweet guy and an activist in his day, but now he's kind of the elder statesman who's saying you got to engage with these people. And I think, it's not wrong, Peter, but at the same time, there's a new bleeding edge of activism, like when he was in his 20s, where you don't try to appease. You actually do something that's disruptive, to get attention and raise awareness to a cause. There's people on the tip of the spear, as it were, not the people behind who get to, clean up the blood and talk with the killers.
Well, I could compromise. I could talk about the fishing industry, but not necessarily crap on the other film. There's another aspect of it. Obviously, the other filmmakers are going to be there.
Yeah. So just what you said, you're a smart guy. And Chris, I agree. Well, Chris is another, it's funny. I know people's personality. So when they say something, she says, quote, I agree with Leah about accepting the award. I mean, and for me, I agree with that. It's use the platform, man.
So did Leah say to accept it and then shit on them, or don't accept it at all? Because someone else said don't.
She said neither. And I quote, Skyler, yes, make a point at the awards show. You can be gracious at the same time. I think Leah will correct me, but that's along with Chris Cedar, which is I agree with Leah about accepting the award. And then obviously Chris also would be, I think, if I may speak for you, Chris, then speak your mind. It depends how you say. Look, man, you made shame of Point Reyes. You were going at people, but you didn't single out one or two ranchers by name and go at their families. But you did speak, bold truths which weren't being spoken at the time. That there's too many cows in the park and the elk are dying, and this is completely wrong. But more entertainingly.
Well, and it was also, the one you're talking about was probably the Vegan Film Festival. Sledge keeps trying to call in and dropping out. Sledge will give you a try. Seems like you have a connection issue.
And Leah says, as I said at the end of at her speech at the Tule Elk Party, in the face of injustice, silence is not an option anymore. Hey, there he is. Morning, Sledge. No, I don't. He's got a strong enough connection to do video, my friend. You're gonna have to call in with just audio.
Yeah, it's not working.
Yeah, it's like with Laura Cunningham. We had the trouble of the people living on the edge. And we are 10:01. And Cory Booker is still at it. I think he's going to get to 17 hours now, going for 7 more hours to make the Senate record for filibustering while criticizing the insanity and destructiveness and cruelty of the current Trump administration actions, gutting the government. He's kind of becoming a hero of mine now. He's not a wildly left Democrat, but he's actually standing up and speaking truth to power for the first time, leading Chuck Schumer and the other more conservative good guy Dems who don't have the courage to really speak out and take bold action. So he's starting something, I hope. Right now, live on the Senate floor. Tune into YouTube Live. You can just go to YouTube and type in Cory Booker Senate, and it'll kick up a live feed.
I wanted to ask you,
yeah,
is that about Turtle Island? Because that's what that sounds like. Island restoration, Turtle Island restoration. Who's No Clue Island restoration? Oh, it's just another version of Point
Blue Island conservation is No Clue Island restoration. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, it was Point Blue again. No Clue is Point Blue, another variation of it.
Well, Point Blue's gone the way of Audubon, supporting cattle ranching while pretending.
Yeah, completely sold out. The big money organizations have. Same with the Nature Conservancy, pro cattle. I mean, that's how you stay in business and make money and compromise all your values. And all of it is at war with nature. This is a great book, Benfield. This is a tutor of a friend of mine who's my tutor. Corporate Conservation and the Industry of Extinction. It's out of print, unfortunately. It's a great little book. I've got it on my shelf over here. And it says it all right there. And by the way, I just want to also frame this. We're ranting as we do to hopefully wake up more people. And, of course, we're in our little, bubble here. But it's to let people know, well, you were introducing new ideas, which is, killing as Native American culture's excuse is just more killing. None of it's excusable anymore. Times have changed. We have to stop killing the wild, which we're doing at a rapid pace.
if you're just tuning in, let's be clear that I don't think Native Americans are the worst or deserve more ridicule than others. But on the other hand, if you're being shown as a source of inspiration and how we should do things, and you're really just carrying out the same bullshit, maybe I have to take back what I just said. It's pretty terrible. But I don't know if anyone watches this later, because we're not getting I just keep hearing Sledge call and drop out. So
Sorry, Sledge. Just try audio, my friend, so we get your voice.
if anyone wants to try and come at me next week after watching this, you're welcome to.
Lulu, I don't want to read Lulu's comment because I don't think it's, unless it's true, I don't want to spread rumors. But I don't know what you're referring to about elk. I don't know where those elk are, what species, and whether any of that's true. So I'm very careful these days just not to read things that I don't know anything about and give them voice without being true.
I'm curious if that comment is supposed to be an indictment of the elk for eating vegetation.
I don't. There's too many other garden paths I want to tread more directly on.
Our scumbag ecologist that approved of the Tamales Bay destruction, whom I went and visited, and then, despite my protests, decided that he and his obese wife were going to eat dairy in front of me. And it's supposedly on our side, also complained about deer coming into their yard. And I thought, have you considered deer-resistant plants? This is me having to suggest this to a so-called professional ecologist. There are native plants you can plant, and it's very easy to find out what they are.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do. I mean, I was living in San Geronimo Valley, which is a very wooded western Marin area, and I watched with great dismay and disgust people put up not just fences but wooden what are they called, complete barriers from the ground, 2 inches above the ground up to 6 feet of planks, so you just couldn't get in. Or just basically, hi, I'm going to move into the woods and then make a perimeter of fencing to keep all the wild animals out of my place, rather than learning to live with them. I mean, it's just, and these were people who chose to live in the woods. It was just so upsetting. And of course, they fence on the side of a road. So a deer could get up on the road, a car could come and it would have a fence they couldn't get past, or fences on both sides of 2 properties, all more destruction of the wild. And my ex, God bless her, Amy, was like, we're not ever going to even expand this house if we have the money and take up more footprint of our little house in the woods. If you want to build up all. If you need to build, if you even need a bigger freaking house, of course, all nonsense.
Leah, I know what you're saying. Let's remember that this is not an activist event. This is not a vegan event. This is an international ocean film festival. I want to be gracious that I am being screened and have the opportunity to spread the word that was in my film and not blackball myself from getting to do it in the future, while also saying what I think should be said. So I'll feel the room. And I'll try and deliver it in a correct manner.
Will you have a Q&A with the audience at the festival, Skyler? I think I asked you that.
I believe so.
I mean, that's the great opportunity to get into it, where you can have more nuance and get the crowd going. And, you have a gift which you're aware of, but don't fully appreciate. So others can tell you, as I would do and as Leah will do with you and Chris and other people who know you, which is you have courage to say things that are unpopular but true, which will get other people to react and learn and grow, and all for the good of nature. That is one of your talents.
So Lulu, who talked about the elk thing, said that they found it on Facebook. Well, it had to be true. I mean, it's on Facebook.
So whenever you see something on Facebook, check the source. It's on Facebook. It's like saying it's on the internet. It's meaningless. That's why traditional media outlets have their place. I subscribe to the New York Times because I know who the writers are. I trust them. The Guardian, I know who the writers are. Washington Post, despite an owner who's going to sell out, you can trust a source more. Nothing is perfect, but they're much better than a completely, I saw it on Facebook or I saw it on the internet, which is meaningless.
Sledge, sorry that you couldn't call in. Karen says, I get so sad watching the wild turkeys try to navigate all these wire fences. Yeah. People demonize the turkeys too, because they do what birds do and scratch the ground and look forage. And I've had people who call themselves wildlife friendly say, oh, it's destroying the plants. And if you look at the trail cam footage, which I need to put out a whole long thing showing how I managed to plant plants that are in a very tender, fragile stage, and they don't get destroyed by the native wildlife. It's amazing. And you can see them dig around, but you're interpreting it as damage. And if you actually take the time to observe, it's not. And maybe you should, just not plant things that are so, I don't know, whatever. I'm rambling. Let's read who's trying to call in. Sledge is still trying. I'm not sure if I want to hear someone who's supporting the end of democracy talk about democracy. I'm pretty tired and grouchy already today.
So again, I don't know whether I'm always torn between keeping the show short. So when people see a recording, it says 60 or 70 minutes and they're more inclined to listen. I don't know, Skyler, what do you think? As opposed to create, I mean, we can keep talking here. I'm happy to for 90 minutes, but then you have a 90-minute show. Does that dissuade people from ever listening to it? I don't know.
I've got a lot to get to today, actually. So we'll keep it short.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine by me. Do we know what we're doing next week? We don't. We'll be here always, but we don't know about what. Oh, actually, oh, no, I'm sorry. It won't be. I'm now excited to have you have your experience at the festival, whatever interaction you're going to have with the audiences, and then talk about it. But that'll be the 2 Tuesdays from now. Tuesday the 8th is up next.
Yep. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And, in the effort of encouraging interaction, if there are some quotes, we're going to start incorporating a tiny bit of news, a quote of the week, and then the topic of the week. So if anyone wants to put feedback in the comments under these videos for us to consider including, please do so.
That's a great idea. And yeah, Skyler, as a reminder, yeah, anybody, if you just go there and say, thanks for the show, comments help the algorithm, the almighty algorithm, as I call it, get more people to see these in their feed. So please make at least a brief comment if it's easy to do. It takes 5 seconds. Thanks.
Yes, the algorithm. Let's act like robots. But if in fact you like the message in this show and want more people to see it, that's the game we have to play. Click like, click notify, subscribe, and very importantly, comment.
Oh, by the way, I'll make one more distinction here. When you're watching this show, or for that matter, any podcast, and just it's unfiltered, it's unregulated, it actually is free speech. You can type any darn thing you want and we will see it. And we're reading most of the comments because we want to encourage people like Lulu, who said that elk story was posted on Point Reyes Station, meaning someone in that feed had something to say about elk going into town. I doubt it was a Thule elk. I very highly doubt that. But in any case, it's different than Facebook with its algorithms, which actually regulates content. You can't use profanity. You can't say certain subjects. There are bots, automated systems set up to filter your speech, say, no, you can't say that. And then most importantly, deciding who sees what post. That is all automated now, and will be increasingly by AI, which means it's not free speech. It's regulated and controlled speech, which is the huge failure of the internet, and it's inevitable and it's monstrous. And that's why I support human communities, people getting together. That's why I lead a trip into the redwoods where people spend time silently every fall together in giant redwood trees, away from the technology. We need to do that to survive. How
about Trump removing any media sources that aren't fully going to just suck up to him? I mean, how do people who talk about freedom and freedom of speech see that and support it?
Well, now we're back to the word cult.
Right.
Back to the word cult. Yeah, you believe something and it becomes a religion. You don't need any proof, and you can support the televangelist or the snake oil salesman or Donald Trump, the televangelist.
My girlfriend was warning me. She's like, you have to be careful. If you are trying to re-enter the country and there's something on your phone that was anti-Trump, you'll be detained. And
I don't know if that's true, but it sounds like it can become true.
That's where we're heading.
So, folks, check out Cory Booker live now, doing a Senate-breaking record filibuster to start something. It's just performative to start, but it becomes substantial later. Just like trying to bring hundreds of gallons of water to elk, a tiny little effort here that we made isn't much in itself, but it can become something and stimulate a movement. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Skyler.
See everyone.